Hello, hello, hello. Happy new week. Happy Monday. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. How are y'all doing on this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day? Welcome back to another installment of Nick at Noon. Oh, my light is out over here. I'm wondering why it's so dark. There we go. Let there be some more light. All right, welcome back. Let's get into it today. We are getting all the way into how to finally start your coaching business. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks so much for joining. We're going to be talking about how to start your coaching business in the context of it being a new quarter because this week Q2 starts. Thanks for joining. Q2 starts, and that means that New Year's resolution, motivation, and inspiration, all of the feels that we had at the beginning of the year. This is the time, the springtime is usually when those feelings start to subside. People start to go back into their old habits. People forget what it is that they resolved to do at the beginning of the new year. So, we're going to be talking about how to finally start your coaching business if you haven't started it already, if it is something that you resolved to do at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of last year, at the beginning of last month. I'm going to give you some practical tips on what you can do to start to take steps forward and create some momentum and start moving from idea to actually having an online business, specifically a coaching business. All right. So, we are about to get into it because, like I said before, second quarter starts this week. And I want to ask you something. And this is a very serious question. Um, I want to ask you this before we get into anything else. And that question is, what are you building? What are you building? Not what are you thinking about building, not what you're planning to build, but what are you building right now? What are you building right now, today, in second quarter, with the skills you already have and the time you have available? Because here's what I want you to know about second quarter. This is the quarter where the women who were serious in January, they start to separate from the women who were just inspired or interested in January. This is the quarter where watching it either turns into building or it doesn't. And if you've been watching these segments of Nick at Noon for the past 3 weeks and something has been stirring inside of you, but you haven't moved yet, I want you to hear me when I say this. Today is the day for you to start moving, not next month, not when second quarter starts to settle down, and certainly not when you feel more ready. Today is the day. Welcome back to Nick at Noon. My name is Nick Scott, and I'm a business coach who helps women who use their existing skills to build sustainable online businesses without quitting their 9 to 5, without the hustle, without the burnout, without the overwhelm. Today is Mindset Monday. Happy New Week. And can you believe that we are about to be in the second quarter of 2025? Like, am I the only one whose mind is blown when you think about that? Like, it's crazy how fast this year is going. I guess in some ways that's a good thing, but in some ways it's not such a good thing. So today, we're going to be talking about what you're going to be doing with this second quarter of 2025. If you haven't already, go get your notebooks and your pens or whatever it is that you take notes on and share this video with your biz bestie because we are about to get all the way into it. If you have watched any episode of Nick at Noon, you know how we do around here. And I want to talk start this conversation and talk a little bit about what this moment, this going into Q2, what it actually represents. Because I think the new quarter is one of the most underutilized reset opportunities in the calendar year, because most people treat January 1st as the reset, right? New year, new goals, new energy, new commitment. And there's real power in that. But here's the thing about January, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. January is crowded. Everybody is starting something new in January. The gyms are full in January. The courses are selling in January. The vision boards are fresh in January. And the energy of collective momentum can carry you for a minute, even when your personal conviction isn't fully there yet, because everybody is starting something new. But by the time April rolls around, that collective momentum is gone. All the gyms have probably cleared out by now. The courses have been purchased and they're partially watched. The vision boards have been quietly taken down, or we just simply forget about them. And what's left are the women who are building because they're the ones who genuinely committed to doing so. They didn't commit to building because the calendar said it was time or because everybody else was doing it. They committed because they made a real decision, and they're honoring their decision and they're honoring themselves. Somebody drop honor in the chat. Second quarter is a truth telling moment. It literally separates intention from commitment. Y'all understand that there is a difference between intending to do something and being committed to doing something, right? And I think that the distinction between those two and the separation that it creates between the women with intention and the women with commitment, I think that it's worth calling out, because I want you to be honest with yourself about which category you're in. And I don't want you to be honest about it with me. I want you to be honest about it with yourself. If you made a decision at the beginning of this year to start your online business and that decision is still burning inside of you, it is still alive in you, second quarter is where you honor it. If you've been watching these live streams or the replay of these live streams and you've been listening and you've been nodding along and you can literally see yourself and you feel like, wow, she's talking directly to me, and you've been watching for the past 3 weeks, but you haven't taken one single concrete step, second quarter is where you get honest about why you haven't taken a step. So here's the thing about me personally, and if you know me personally, you know this to be true. I am a great accountability partner, not just for you, but for myself as well. And I really believe in the concept and context of leading by example. So I'm not saying this to make you feel bad. I just really want all of us to have a very honest conversation about where you are and why you're there. And if you've been building quietly and consistently, and you're starting to see momentum, second quarter is not where you start to press the brake. It is the place where you start to press the gas. And wherever you are, whether you've been watching and you haven't taken a concrete step, or if you've been quietly building and you are starting to see some momentum, wherever you are, this is the moment to name it clearly and for you to decide exactly what happens next. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining on YouTube. This is the moment for you to decide what happens next. Now, I want to take a minute and speak directly to the woman who's been watching these live streams every day and hasn't moved yet, because I believe she's here and I believe she needs to hear something specific. I know you. I literally know you, not personally, but I know your pattern. And it's not a pattern that is exclusive to you. I know that you're smart. I know that you're capable. I know you have a background that would make most people's eyes widen if they knew the full picture. You've been thinking about this for longer than you'd like to admit to yourself or to anybody else. You've consumed more content about building a coaching business than most coaches even have. You're the woman who can talk fluently about niches and offers and ideal clients and positioning because you've been in research mode for months, maybe even years, but you still haven't made your first offer. And then when you ask yourself why, the answer is usually one of a few things. The answer is you're not sure that your niche is specific enough, or you're not sure your offer is structured correctly, or you're waiting until you have a little more clarity before you put anything in front of anyone, or you're not quite ready. Does any of those sound familiar? And here's what I want to say to this woman. The clarity that you're waiting for isn't coming before you start. If you're taking notes, I want you to jot that down in your notebook and I want you to personalize this thing. I want you to write down the clarity that I'm waiting for isn't coming before I start. Now, if you've been watching these live streams, you know that I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it because I think it's the most important thing I know about building a coaching business. And that is clarity is not a prerequisite for starting. Clarity is a byproduct of starting. Somebody drop in the chat clarity. The niche that feels fuzzy right now, it only gets specific the moment you have a real conversation with a real person about their real problem. Your offer that feels incomplete right now, it only gets sharper the moment you make it to someone and they ask you a question that you didn't anticipate. Like, you can have all your questions listed out and you're ready, and then they come up with something that you didn't anticipate. That's when your offer starts to get sharper. That's when your offer starts to feel more complete. The confidence you're waiting to feel before you put yourself out there shows up the moment you put yourself out there, and it does not destroy you. Because the truth is, the watching has taught you things. You're watching and you're learning. And I genuinely believe that. I believe the information you've gathered, the frameworks that you've been exposed to through my content and other online coaches' content, the thinking that you've done, it all has value. All of it. All of it has value. And I truly, truly, truly believe that. But at some point, the watching has to become building. And that point is not determined by how ready you feel. It's determined by the decision you make. Somebody drop building in the chat. Give this video a thumbs up if what I'm saying is resonating with you. So here's what I want you to do before the end of the day today. Now, I don't always give action items in these lives, but I'm gonna give one today. This is your action item. And if you're taking notes, jot it down so you don't forget it. Make it real. And I want you to complete this action step by the end of the day today, not later on this week, not tomorrow, not Friday, not Saturday, by the end of the day today. And that action item is I want you to identify one person, just one person in your life who has one problem that you know how to solve. That's it. I want you to identify one person in your life who has one problem, not all the problems, just one problem you know how to solve. Just one person. I'm not talking about your ideal client avatar here. I'm talking about a real human being whose name you know and who you could reach out to today so that you can complete this action item by the end of the week, by the end of the day, excuse me, by the end of the day. And I want you to reach out to this person. And I don't want you to pitch them and I don't want you to sell them anything. I want you to reach out to them just to have a conversation. I want you to ask them what they're struggling with. And I want you to listen. And then I want you to notice what happens when you bring your full experience to that one conversation, because that is the first step and it's available to you today. Remember, I said, and the title of this episode is How Do You Finally Start Your Coaching Business? And I just gave you the whole game right there. That is the first step, and you can take it today. And as a matter of fact, if you take that first step today, I want you to send me an email so I can celebrate with you. Send me an email so I can celebrate with you if you take that first step as a result of watching this video. Now, I want to talk about something that doesn't get said enough in the coaching space. And that is intention without action isn't neutral because it has a cost. And that cost, it compounds over time and it compounds in a way that most women don't calculate until it's significant. So, we talked about this a few days ago when I got into the math of waiting. If you haven't watched that, you can go back and watch the replay of Nick at Noon for that one. But I want to come at it from a different angle today. Because I think for the woman who has been watching and not moving, the financial cost isn't the most painful part. Thanks for jumping on YouTube. I see you. The financial cost isn't the most painful part. The most painful part is what staying in intention mode does to your relationship with yourself. And here's what I mean. Every time you tell yourself you're going to start and then you don't, you're making a small withdrawal from your own trust account. You're making a small vote against the version of yourself that follows through. You're making a small confirmation of the quiet voice that says, maybe I'm not going to do this. And the fact is, those withdrawals, they accumulate. And after enough of them, the gap between who you say you want to be and who you're currently being, it starts to feel uncomfortable in a way that is incredibly hard to pinpoint. Because maybe it shows up as low grade restlessness, like you're just restless for whatever reason and you can't quite figure it out. Or it shows up as a sense of something important that's being left undone. You know, you have that feeling like, dang, is there something that I should have done? I feel like I'm missing something here. Or maybe it's a feeling of being slightly out of alignment with yourself that you cannot quite put your finger on. And that feeling is not going to go away with more information. Those feelings are not going to go away with more information. Those feelings are not going to go away with more research. They're not going to go away with more planning. They're not going to go away with more listening. They're not going to go away with more watching. Those feelings are going to go away when you start to close the gap between where you say you're going and what you say you're going to do, and that gap between what you say you're going to do and actually doing what you say you're going to do. So, the antidote to that feeling isn't a perfect plan, it's a kept promise to yourself. I'm talking about one small, specific, concrete promise to yourself that you keep to yourself today. Somebody drop promise in the comments. Somebody drop promise in the comments, because I'm talking about one small, specific, concrete promise to yourself that you keep to yourself. I'm not talking about a big declaration or a big launch announcement. I'm talking about one conversation, one email, one offer, one real step that you take, because that one step, it does something that no amount of preparation can do. What it does is it tells the version of you that has been watching and waiting, it tells that version, I am really doing this. And that message, when it's delivered through action instead of intention, that message is worth more than anything that I can say to you today. Now, let me talk about what the women who build something real in second quarter do differently than the ones who stay in watching mode, because I don't think it's what most people expect. The women who build in second quarter, they're not the most talented. They're not the most experienced. They don't have the most polished offers or the biggest platforms or the most impressive credentials. But what they do have is a bias toward action. They have a default setting within them that says, when in doubt, walk it out. Make a move, take a step, put something real into the world and just see what happens. You're watching this because you want to know how to finally start your coaching business, and I'm telling you, when in doubt, walk it out. Make a move, take a step, put something real in the world and just see what happens. So these women, they also have a specific relationship with imperfection that I think is worth highlighting. So the women who build, they don't wait for the good version or the perfect version or the better version or the best version. They move forward with the current version and then they make it better as they go. They use what they got to get what they want. Like literally, they know that the offer that they put out today is not the offer that they'll be running in 6 months. They know that the content they create this week is not as good, it's not going to be as good as the content that they'll create in 3 months. They know their first coaching session isn't going to be their best coaching session, and they do it anyway. They're using what they got to get what they want, because they understand that they understand something that people in permanent preparation mode haven't yet accepted, and that is you cannot improve something that doesn't exist yet. The good version requires the rough version first, every single time. The women who build in second quarter also get honest with themselves about where they're spending their time. Somebody drop honest in the comments. Thanks so much for joining on YouTube. Drop honest in the comments. They look at their week and they ask themselves a simple question: how many hours did I spend consuming content about building a coaching business versus actually building a coaching business? And if that answer is uncomfortable, they adjust. But it starts with being honest with yourself. And these women, they don't adjust perfectly, but they adjust directionally. They shift a little more time from learning to doing. Now, I'm not minimizing the learning because it's necessary. But if you are spending more hours consuming content about building the thing versus actually building it, I would say there needs to be a little bit of an adjusting there, right? So they shift a little more of their time from learning to doing, from watching to building, from researching to reaching out. And that shift, even a small one, it changes your trajectory. And the women who build in second quarter do one more thing that I believe is underrated. And this one's going to blow your mind, y'all. They tell somebody. And they're not telling someone as an accountability exercise or because they need some kind of external validation. They're telling someone because the moment you say it out loud to another human being, I am actually building this, something in the atmosphere shifts. Do you believe that? And the thing that was only in your head, it becomes real in the world when you say it out loud to someone. And real things are harder to abandon than ideas that you have written on a piece of paper or ideas that you have in your head. So, the next action item that I have for you is for you to find your person. Find your person. Tell them what you're building, not what you're thinking about building. Tell them what you're building. And let the saying of it make the thing you're building more real. You are tuned in because you wanted to know how to finally start your coaching business. Saying it makes it real. Now, I want to spend a few minutes on the question that I opened with. And that question was, what are you building? Because I think it's worth getting specific about what building a coaching business from your skills actually produces, not in terms of income. While that is important, I really want to spend some time right here talking about what it produces in terms of your life. When you build a coaching business from what you already know, you're building the option to generate income that isn't tied to a single employer's decision about your role. Can I say that one more time? When you build a coaching business from what you already know, from your skills, you're building the option to generate income that isn't tied to one single employer's decision about your role. You're building something that exists regardless, period. You're building something that exists regardless of whether the company restructures, the job market shifts, or the leadership changes. You are building something that exists regardless. You're building a skill set. You're building a reputation. You're building a client base that belongs to you. And those things don't belong to a company or to your title. They belong to you. And when you build a coaching business, you're also building a different relationship with your own skill set, your own expertise, and your own knowledge. You stop seeing what you know as something that belongs to your employer, and you start to see it as something that belongs to you because it does. You start to see it as something that has transferable value, something that people will pay for. And that shift in how you see your knowledge, see your skills, see your abilities, see your expertise, that shift in how you see it, it changes more than just your income, y'all. It changes more than just your income. We are in the middle of Mindset Monday. It changes how you walk in a room. It changes how you talk about what you do. It changes how you negotiate. It changes how you make decisions. The woman who knows her skills have market value outside of her job, she carries herself differently than the woman who doesn't. And when you build a coaching business, you're building proof. You're building a body of proof. You're building a body of credibility. And you're building proof that the thing you've been wondering is real. You're building proof that your skills are worth paying for, and proof that the version of you that earns income on her own terms, it is not a dream. It is not a fantasy. It is something that is tangible. And that person, that lady that I'm describing, she's available to you. She just requires you to take steps toward her. In second quarter, it gives you 13 weeks of building time. 13 weeks. 13 weeks. 13 weeks, like let's just say what it is. 13 weeks is enough time for you to have your first real client conversation. It's enough time for you to make your first offer. It's enough time for you to sign your first client. It's enough time for you to deliver your first result. And it's enough time for you to collect your first testimonial. Second quarter is 13 weeks. We're just what, a day away from it? 13 weeks is enough time for you to look back at the end of June and see something tangible that wasn't even there in March. It was an idea that wasn't even a thing. But it only happens if you start today. It only happens if you start today. Good afternoon, Queen. Thanks so much for subscribing. Oh, of course. Thanks for hopping in. I appreciate it. I see the love on YouTube. So before I close, I want to mention something. The founding cohort of my flagship program, Ignite, it closed last week. And I have already heard from women who missed that deadline and they want to know when the next cohort opens again. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. I don't have a date yet, but I am building the wait list now because I do know that I'm going to open it up again. I just don't know when. And the women who are on the wait list, you'll be the first to know when enrollment does open back up. You will also get first access to any early pricing that I might offer, and you'll be the first to secure your spot for the next cohort. So if you've been watching these videos and you've heard me talk about Ignite, or you visited the webpage and it's been on your mind, the wait list is the right next step for you. And I'm not asking for a commitment because it's not going to be a commitment. It is just a signal that you're serious about moving forward with your coaching business. And once you join the waiting list, when the next cohort opens, you will be in the front of the line. So if you're watching on YouTube, the link to join the wait list is in the description, and it's also where you can find more information about the program. And if you're not at the Ignite stage yet, which is fine, if you're still in the early clarity phase of figuring out what you're building and who it's for, then I would direct you to my micro course, 2K in 2 hours. And that is the direction that I would point you. because 2K in 2 hours is designed to give you the foundational framework so that when you are ready to go deeper, you're building something solid. So the link for 2K in 2 hours is also in the description if you're on YouTube. So second quarter is here, y'all. Like, it's here. And the question I want to leave you with is the one that I've already repeated twice in this episode. And that is, what are you building? What are you building? I hear you listening at work. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. What are you building? Not what are you thinking about? Not what are you planning to build, but what are you building right now, today, this quarter? Because the version of you that has a coaching business, that generates income from her skills, that shows up for clients who need exactly what it is that you have to offer, that version, she's not waiting for the right quarter. She's building in this one. And she started on a Mindset Monday, listening to Noon at Nick in March when someone asked her what she was building, and she decided that she was going to have an answer. That's when it starts. So I have a few more minutes. I see there's a few folks still on here live. If you have any questions about how to finally start your coaching business, or any of the content that I presented today, or any of the 2 action items that I gave you in this episode, go ahead and drop it in the chat. I'd love to answer any questions that you have, because listen, time is not slowing down. And those 13 weeks that I just talked about in Q2, from April 1st to June 30th, that time is going to go by whether you take action or not. That time is going to go by whether you decide or not. That time is going to go by whether you decide that you want to stay in preparation mode or not. So I would say, if you've listened to this full episode and you're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, Q2 is the time for me to start. Like I said, I was going to do this in January during, the new year, new energy. Everybody's doing all the new things in January. And here it is, April, and I'm still thinking about it. I want you to get real honest with yourself as we go into Q2. Not for me, but I want you to do it for you. I want to see you win. I don't have 100% client satisfaction rate for no reason. I am invested in your success, whether or not you choose to move forward in any of my programs. So, being that I see no questions coming in, I want to remind you that I am here Monday through Friday at noon Mountain Time for Nick at Noon. So tomorrow is Tuesday, and we get into strategy on Tuesday. Those talks are usually a little bit longer for those of you that are new here, because I literally get into the strategy, some part of building your coaching business. And tomorrow, we're going to be talking about something that trips up almost every single woman when she tries to build her first offer. And I don't always, or I never like to just leave you with the diagnosis. So not only are we going to be talking about the biggest thing that trips up these women when they start to build their offer, but we're going to also talk about what the fix is. So I want you to set your reminders. Nick at Noon, Monday through Friday, noon Mountain Time. And if you haven't, or if something I said about Ignite stirred something up in you, I want you to join the wait list. The link is in the description. And if you're not quite ready for Ignite, 2K in 2 hours is a perfect starting point. Both of those links are in the description. And I will see y'all tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining. I appreciate you for rocking with me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.